So as the video said, often it starts with this check mark. Let's do this training so we can get compliance done and let's get on with our lives. Just gonna spotlight this one. Okay. But often what happens, and which is a good thing, I think, is that once you've done that compliance checkmark training, you actually want to do better because now you started working with this, you see the value of it, and you want to actually know that people in the organization understand the policies you've created because there's a reason you want to do these things, you want to be more secure. So you start to become interested in the culture aspect and people's behavior, which is everything that Davide has told us about. So I'm just going to share here awareness training, make it fun, make coffee analogies. So going back to the standards, because we also still want our compliance check mark. So just want to tell everyone what is actually required when it comes to security standards, specifically the ISO 27001 and DSEAL. They say at least once a year. You have to train everyone, and also it's best practice whenever a new employee comes in. That's when they're most aware and open to new rules and new culture. So this is where you have to train them and explain all the policies that you have. And then you must keep some kind of evidence of the training. So keep some records, and it can be a log of attending. I've even seen you sometimes a meeting invite where you could see all the employees that were at the meeting. So somehow showing that you have done the training. And training must include awareness of your security policies, and you can do that in Cyberduce using habit surveys. And then implications of, what happens if you break the rules? What are the implications? What can happen? So consequences, like in the not wearing the seatbelt, you get a fine. And then necessary competencies for security, which basically means everyone gets a basic awareness training. Okay, so basic awareness training and the rules in the policy and consequences if you don't follow the rules. And just to give a little, why is this so important? They really mentioned the human factor and that it tends to be a blame thing. I like the switching, that it's more, how do you protect your people? It's an attack vector. It's the easiest place to come in. So it's more like we have to protect them. But when you look at the statistics, it is still that 96% of companies globally had at least one phishing attack. I think we've all tried to get emails, phishing emails or text messages. 71% of companies globally were affected by a ransomware. Numbers from 2022. That's actually a very high number. 85% of data breaches it says here caused by humans. I would say the human was part of the equation. So again, the attack vector. So it makes sense to have some focus on how we protect, also how do we measure what's going on in the culture. And don't be the slowest animal in the jungle. Okay, so a simple way to get started is to use, if you're on the Cyberduce platform, we have the policies with the habits. So habits are really have a focus on these behaviors. So it's so that's part of the culture that you can measure. And we recommend that you start with the basics. So we have as one of our policies in the platform something called Employee Security Handbook, which is basically a short version, like what is the most important things that we want everyone to understand and be able to know if we wake them up middle of the night. So really the distilled version to have one place that you can start teaching people what are the most important policies and rules and behaviors that we want you to have. So I'm going to show you that inside the platform. No, actually, I'm gonna show you the case study first. Sorry, because we did this with a company recently with 400 employees, and this is an anonymized version of it, of course. So here you see what we send out. So we send out small questionnaires, so it's not an overwhelming 50 questions you have to answer, and you need a lot of coffee to get through. It's a quick one. This is actually one of the longer ones with 13 questions. A lot of them have just 3 questions. So we send one a week, one for every policy, over about 10 weeks. And they can look like this. How frequently do you leave your laptop or phone unattended in public spaces? A lot of companies allow remote work. So it's a very interesting question to ask. And here we see some of the results. So this is for each of the policies that they send out. We get an average score across the whole company. And here the scale is 1 to 4, where 4 is most secure. So they're doing pretty well on a lot of them, but there's a little bit of attention needed here in the bottom here. And it's password policy and data classification. So what are the different types of data? And incident management. So this already gives us some idea on where they can focus. So what they actually used this for was, well, to measure the security behaviors and compliance with the policy. So measure directly on the rules in the policies, and then identify the biggest areas to focus on for improvement, because you can't fix everything at the same time, right? And have a data-driven way of improving the security behaviors in the company. So once you have the first benchmark measure, of course, next year they can repeat it and see, has it worked? Our new seatbelt law, has it actually made any change? And what they gained as a key insight was that they actually provided a password manager to the company, to everyone in the company, but people were not using it. They didn't know how to use it. So that was one learning. And some of the GDPR habits were weak. They had some problems in that area that required further investigation. And with the data, they could see which groups to go out and talk to. And then they could see certain teams in the company had low response rates to these habit surveys that were sent out. And that in itself can be, it can be an attitude problem. It can also be that they're simply too busy to answer a short survey. And that in itself can be a security risk if people are very, very busy. And then they could see what are the key habits that we need to focus on and reinforce through communication, for example. That was also one of the dimensions that Davide mentioned. So then we could see, okay, what are the individual habits that they're very good at? So I like that the first one is to watch the security training video. So they scored a 4 across the whole company in that. So basically means that everyone who answered said yes to this. And then the lowest scoring habits. So here they could see, they're sharing passwords. They're not really using the password manager. So that's what comes out here as well. And then they could see this heat map of the lowest scoring groups. So different teams in the company. And here are the policies. So this is very interesting data to be able to go out and understand what is actually happening in certain areas or certain departments. And you can start to answer questions like, where is the next security incident likely going to come from? Or put another way, where are the people who need to protect more?